Welcome to this latest episode of Q&A Thursday, where you and other members of our YouTube audience get to ask me questions on business and property. And today we've got a really special session as Michael and Kazeem are going to be asking me the questions right here, right now. This is going to be an amazing show. Stay tuned for more.
What is rent to rent?
That's a great question. What is rent to rent? Well, rent to rent is an amazing property strategy. This is a high cash flowing strategy. It's also known as an income replacing strategy. So if you're in a position at the moment where you like the idea of replacing your income and generating passive income, then this strategy is for you. But what is rent to rent? Rent to rent is really simple. You go out to existing landlords that no longer want to manage their properties. And most landlords out there are accidental landlords, or they are tired landlords, and all they want is a hands-free investment. They don't really want to manage tenants. They don't want to check tenants in. They don't really have an understanding of serviced accommodation or multi-lets, also known as houses in multiple occupancy. And what you will do as a property investor, you will approach landlords and you will say, hey, Mr. Landlord, what I want to do is manage your property. I'm going to take control of your property through a common law agreement, also known as a corporate let agreement. I will then give you guaranteed rent, i.e. let's just call it £1,000 per calendar month. And what I would like to then do with your property is turn it into a multi-let property or operate it as serviced accommodation. You then make the difference between the rent that you collect from your tenants and the money that you need to pay to the landlord, minus any bills, minus any costs. Now here's the thing. Typically, a rent-to-rent deal will net you £1,000 per calendar month. That's £12,000 a year, ladies and gentlemen, from just one deal. So I want to ask you a question now. How many of those do you need in order to replace your current income? The average UK salary is £24,000 a year before tax. So maybe you are just one or two or 2.5 or 3 deals away from financial freedom. The downside for rent to rent is that you don't own the assets. But the upside is that you don't need a mortgage. You haven't got to go and raise capital. You can get a rent-to-rent deal over the line really quickly. And Michael, who asked this question, he knows this because he got his first rent-to-rent deal just after 2 weeks of being on my advanced training, the Property Millionaires Bootcamp. Rent-to-rent is a great way to get started in property. You can get started with just 5 or 6 hours a week. You can get started using investor funds if you do need funds to get the deal over the line. And once you've got your first one, it really is a business model that you can scale rapidly. You've only got to look at Michael and Kazeem. They've now done 9 rent-to-rent deals in just 9 months. If we can do this, you can definitely do it. That is what rent-to-rent is. Very simple, very easy, very scalable, very, very profitable.
Where do you find rent-to-rent deals?
That is a brilliant question, Michael. Where to find rent-to-rent deals? Well, I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, there are an abundance of rent-to-rent deals in your local area right now. The problem is, you don't know what you're looking for. And at the moment, you are walking down your streets, you are driving past houses, you are sitting on the bus, you are doing the things that you do every single day, walking past pots of money. So where do you find rent-to-rent deals? There's many, many different lead sources. Lead source number one, you're going to want to write this down right now. Lead source number one is working closely with letting agents. Letting agents work with landlords all day long, 365 days of the year. And what you're going to do is you're going to approach letting agents, you're going to introduce yourself, you're going to introduce your company, you're going to be talking about the services that you provide and your unique selling points and how you want to create a win-win between you, the letting agent, and of course the landlord. You're then going to go on lots of viewings, you're going to put in lots of offers, and it then comes down to a numbers game. Now let me share this with you. When I first started doing these types of deals, for every 10 opportunities that were in front of me, I would convert at 20%. So 80% of deals I would lose simply because I was new, I was inexperienced, I didn't quite know what I was saying, I certainly didn't have a lot of confidence, but here, how many do you actually need? Well, if one property generates you £12,000 a year and you get 2 of these out of your next 10 offers, that's 24 grand a year. Would you not say that's a good thing to happen? Because you only need 1 or 2 of these to get you started. My conversion rate now, ladies and gentlemen, bearing in mind I am a professional property investor, I've added over £12.6 million worth of property to the portfolio in just the last few years. I've raised over £5 million in joint venture finance. But here's the thing, I was sitting exactly where you were sitting just a few years ago. So if I can do this, you can definitely do it. Now, if I go out to 10 potential rent-to-rent deals, my conversion rate will be between 60 and 80%. Lead source number 2. Maybe you've heard of a thing called Gumtree. Many landlords advertising their properties on Gumtree. But how do you make the approach? It's called a telephone. Pick up the phone, make the approach, generate a lead, go and meet the landlord, find out what their pain points are, where the motivation is, and go and create a win-win. Property is all about building relationships. Number 3 lead source, you can go and find the HMO, the house in multiple occupancy HMO license list in your local area, and you can send out D2V, direct to vendor letters, and you can make your approach directly to landlords. Lead source number 4, get yourself to National Landlord Association meetings. There will be meetups right where you live or close to where you live, once every month or every few months, where landlords come together and you can go and make your approach, build the relationships. Lead source number 5, get yourself out to property networking events. Property networking events are filled with landlords. Go and make your approach. Lead source number 6, get yourself on the property portals. Get yourself onto Rightmove. Get yourself making the approach direct to landlords and also out to letting agents. There's many ways in which you will go and find these types of deals. It's like deep sea fishing. The bigger the net, the more fish you're going to catch. It's purely a numbers game, but you are just one landlord, one decision away from achieving financial freedom.
Where do you find tenants for rent-to-rent deals?
That is a great question, Kazeem. Where do you find tenants for your rent-to-rent deals? Well, finding tenants is absolutely key, isn't it, to success, because you've now got your first or next rent-to-rent deal over the line. You've split it up into rooms, and let's just say you've got a property now with 5 rooms. In order to get that property cash flowing, you need to go and find your tenants. Now, I'm here to tell you there is a shortfall in affordable accommodation in the UK. They're not making any more land. There's certainly not enough houses, and this is why the multi-let model works very well in many parts of the country. So before you go and get your first rent-to-rent deal, of course you need to do a demand check, but you've now got the property, the demand check is good, and where are you going to find your tenants? go onto spareroom.com. You can also use openrents.com. You can use existing letting agents and get them to find your tenants. You can put posters on billboards. You can put cards in shops. You can go on to Facebook groups. You can put a board outside the property. You can go out to local companies. You can go to hospitals. You can go to universities. There's many, many ways in which you can have a good, steady flow of high-paying tenants that are going to come into your properties.
How do you check tenant demand?
Thanks for that question, Michael. The question is, how do you check tenant demand? So certainly when you're doing the rent-to-rent model, you want to make sure you are getting a property in a high demand rental location. So if you walk down the street and all you can see outside the houses is to let, to let, to let, to let, to let, you're probably in the wrong area. But what can you do? Number one, do a demand check on spareroom.com. So go onto Spareroom, put in the town, put in the postcode, and you will be able to hit a button that says rooms wanted. And you click rooms wanted and it might say there's 100 rooms wanted. And then you can click another button that says rooms available. And there might be, for example, let's just say 200 rooms available. And then what you need to do is look at the quality of the rooms that are available. And you will notice very, very quickly that 50, 60, if not 70% of the rooms advertised look awful. The photos are not done professionally. The rooms are messy. It just doesn't look very good, very appealing. And this is one of the reasons why a lot of landlords, they don't rent out their rooms. And this is where you come into play, because you're going to take control of a lot of these properties. So have a look at the competition, have a look at the room rates, and see where you fit into that particular area. Now on Spareroom, I always work on 1 to 3. So let's say, for example, let's just say we've got 100 rooms available. So we've got 100 rooms available and we have got, say, 30 people interested. That to me is not too bad. Anything more than 1 in 3, I would be a little bit concerned. But we sometimes in Colchester have a 1 in 3 or 1 in 2 or 1 in 2.5 ratio, and we have 0 voids or very little voids, and we have a flow of tenants coming into the property. Make sure you do a demand check, go out to existing HMOs, speak to local letting agents as well, and get a really good feel for what your market needs and wants.
What makes a rent-to-rent HMO licensable?
So it's really important, ladies and gentlemen, that when you become a professional property investor, you stick to rules and regulations and you do things by the book. What you've got to think about here is that every rent-to-rent deal you do is going to be worth in the region of £12,000 a year. And you want to make sure that you become the best landlord, the best landlady in your area, providing a 5-star service. So what you need to do is go and search the HMO rules and regulations list for your local council, and you can do that online. You can just put it into Google. What I also recommend you do is that you go and speak to the HMO officer and go and introduce yourself so the HMO officer knows who you are, what you're about, because the HMO officer a lot of the times can sign off what you can and what you can't do in the property. But this is typically the latest rules and regulations regarding licenses. If you have more than 5 people or more living in one house, forming more than 2 households, i.e. they're not mum, dad, brothers, sisters, they're forming more than 2 households, then your HMO is going to need a license. So for example, if you've got 4-bedroom minimo, but you've actually got 5 people living there, maybe one of the rooms is a double and you've got a couple, you're gonna need to get a license. It doesn't matter if you're on 1 floor, 2 floors or 3 floors, you're gonna need to go and get a license. If you've got a minimo and you've just got 4 people in the property, then of course, no license required. However, you must check that out with your local council, as it can change council to council. Here in Colchester, if you've got a 4-bed minimo, no license required. So it's really important that you stick to rules and regulations. How do you go get a license? Well, you just make an application online, you pay your license fee. In Colchester, we're £750, but that will give us a license for 5 years. And you just factor this into your deal analysis and your costs. What you've also got to be aware of, when you get a license, you might need to upgrade, well, you will need to upgrade the doors, the fire alarms, the smoke systems, the communal space. So again, go and have a check in your local area. But once you know this stuff, it's easy. Stick to the rules, earn £12,000 per property per year. Go for it, create the life that you want to create.
Thanks for tuning in and watching these videos.
Please make sure you like, comment and share right now.
Stay tuned for more videos.
Remember, these videos are being launched every Tuesday, Thursday and Sunday at 7:30 p.m. And on the second Monday of every month, we've also got Ask Me Monday. If you want to know more about property investing, becoming financially free and building a rent-to-rent business which will enable you to create passive income and live the life of your dreams, just like Michael and Kazeem here, make sure you click the link in the description and join us at one of our up-and-coming events and grab your free ticket right now.